Hi everyone, my name is Kathryn Rossati and I am a author of middle grade and young adult books. My latest book is called Naturally Nick and looks like this. I'll talk a bit more about that later on. But today I'm going to do a little creative writing workshop with you, um, which is all about how to make up your own villains. Um, so grab a pen and paper, or if you want to use a laptop or a tablet, or even if you do speech to text, however you want to make notes or things like that, go and grab that and we'll start. So, the very first thing that I'd like to do with you is just to do a mind map um, of all the different villains you can think of. So, when I say mind map, um, I've just drawn something like this. You can see I've written villains in the middle, and I'm going to list all the villains I can think of around here. Um, and once we've done that, I'll explain the next thing you do. So you can either pause the video here and do that, or you can follow me on to the next step. So once we've done our mind maps, we now have to think about what those villains that we thought of um, sort of what villainous things they've done and what they want, um, and sort of things like that. So, my writing is a bit messy, but I will quickly show you what I've got. So, this is my villain mind map, and I've thought of villains from books that I like. I've even got some villains from my own book, actually, Nick, on here, but also from TV series, and also Disney films and things like that. So you can um, write down any sort of villains that you like for this. Um, and so let's see, I'm going to talk you through sort of things that I've got. So I've got Hades from the Disney film Hercules, and I've just written that he wants to be recognized as important. Um, and he sort of wants revenge on Zeus because Zeus sort of makes fun of him all the time, and Hades doesn't like it. And sort of the job that Hades does, is looking after all the people who have died, is quite important, and none of the other gods sort of take much notice of that. So those are the reasons why Hades does what he does in the film. I also have a character called Capricorn, who is the villain in a book by an author called Cornelia Funke, and the book's called Inkheart, and that also is a film as well. And so Capricorn is a character who is read out of a book, and in the book he comes from, um, he is a sort of low thief. He sort of works for someone else to do the stuff. And so when he is read out of his story, um, he has more freedom. And so one of the things he wants is he doesn't want to go back into his story. He wants to stay in sort of the real world as it is. And the other thing is because he has his freedom and he feels like he can do what he wants, he also seeks power. Um, and so those are his motivations. One of the other characters I'll talk about, I've got a character here called Queen Beryl. So Queen Beryl is the antagonist of it was actually a manga series first, but then became an anime and has had quite a few adaptations since then. Um, but it's from a series called Sailor Moon, and Queen Beryl basically lost a war at the very start of the series, against the people of the Moon Kingdom, because in the world of Sailor Moon, there are people who live on the moon. Um, so Queen Beryl lost that fight, and she then wants revenge on the sort of daughter of the Queen of the Moon, because all the characters sort of get reborn on Earth. So Queen Beryl wants revenge on them, and she also wants to take over because she herself wants power, and to be seen as this really authoritative figure, and so does all sorts of nasty deeds because of that. Um, so I'll also go over um, the two antagonists from my book, Naturally Nick. So interestingly, there are two antagonists, as I've said, and they also work together. Now, this is sort of mild spoilers for the plot, but I won't give away too much. So we have one called RF, and he is a magician, and he basically um, all his shows and things like that sort of got cancelled, because there was another up and coming magician, who was more popular. So he wants revenge on that other magician, and he also sort of wants to be famous, to be the most well known magician. So that's his motivation for what he's trying to do. And then his sort of partner in crime, as such, is a person called Mr. Mudlark, who is an inventor. And um, so Mr. Mudlark has an interesting backstory. Um, Basically, again, I'm trying not to give too many spoilers here in case you do fancy having a read of Nash Nick. But he loses someone very close to him, and so pours all his energy into his inventions. In this case, he makes mechanical dolls. And one of his things that he really wants is he wants his inventions, his dolls, to be taken seriously and to gain respect from his peers. And um, he sort of wants his work to be properly recognized. And also, another little thing is he also sort of wants to forget the past. And so that's why he's so involved in what he's doing. Um, and the last one I've got on here is Sauron, who is the antagonist from Lord of the Rings, often represented as being the big eye on the tower. Um, so, very famously, he wants to rule them all. He wants to rule Middle Earth. Um, and so will do anything to make that happen. So that's my list. You probably got all different villains on yours, and that is wonderful. Um, and if you could just list sort of like I've done what they want or what they're trying to achieve. Um, and so again, you can pause now and do that, or follow me along to what we're going to do next. So putting mind maps aside, I said the purpose of doing that was to get us thinking about motivations of villains. What we're going to do now is a little fun exercise. Um, you might need a die. Fun fact, if you don't already know this, one dice is just called a die, just a normal six-sided die. And you will need to draw some sort of charts, but I'll read out what you've got to do to it. So you're just going to need 6 boxes on each one. Now, what we're going to list, this one is sort of for scenarios of what might happen in a story. And so you can see I've put a scenario in each box, and then I've numbered them 1 to 6. So I'll just read these out in case you can't quite see them. And you can put these in any order you like in your boxes. Um, so I'll just read out each scenario. So I've got steal an object, then I've got kidnap someone, then I've got end someone's life, a very nasty one. Then I've got poison someone, also quite nasty. Um, then I've got mess up a rival's plan, and then I've also got send a threatening letter. So those are some scenarios that you can write down. Now, again, pause this if you need to, or come back to it later. If you want to watch the whole video through first and then do the exercises. So I've got two more charts as well. So now I'm going to show you we've got characters, and some of these characters might surprise you. The reason why I've gone for the ones that I've gone for is because the idea is that villains can actually sort of come from any background and sort of be anyone. They don't have to sort of start out as this criminal mastermind um, or come from a family of villains. Um, those can be some very fun um, things to do and backstories to have with villains. Um, but actually, quite a lot of villains or bad guys in sort of stories and also in real life um, do come from a variety of different backgrounds. Um, so I have got librarian, doctor, gardener, baker, hairdresser, and shop assistant. And again, you can write these in your boxes in any order. You can also choose your own ones as well. These are just what I've come up with. So once you've done that box as well, then we're going to move on to the box which gives us our setting. So for this one, I have park, cinema, train, museum, hospital, and zoo/animal sanctuary. So you will end up with, oh, let's see if I can get the camera to get them all. Three of these boxes. And again, you can sketch them out. They don't have to be particularly neat, as long as you can read them. And as long as each box has a number from 1 to 6 in it. And so the idea with what we do with those is you're going to roll your dice once each for each box. And so the number it lands on, say I rolled it and I got a number 1 for the character, I would be working with a librarian. And again, these characters, because this is all about villains and bad guys, my librarian is going to be a villain in some way. And again, it doesn't have to be a big way, can just be something small. And you'll do the same thing, roll a die for sort of each one. So for setting, if I rolled a 3 on my chart, she'd be on a train. And for the last one for the scenario, if I rolled a 2, it would be that she would kidnap someone. Um, so again, if you want to give that a little go, pause here and you can sketch out your things, or go back and just write down what I've said to make sure that you've got all of the things that I've said for your charts, or keep watching if you again want to watch it all through and then go back. So how I did this, and let's see if I can find it on my notebook. Where are we? Here we go. Right. It's always interesting when I have to look through my notebook. So, how I have done this is I have made a list of what my selections were at the top. So again, I got kidnap someone, the character's going to be a librarian, and they're going to be on a train. And I first just made some bullet points, a little bit about sort of the character, so I gave them a name. In this case, my librarian is called Miss Eliza Marigold. You can make up any name you like. And I sort of gave her a little bit of background. I said she's been a librarian for 5 years. Um, and the train she's on is going to be going to this sort of big library. Her rival is on the train. They're both going to go for this promotion, but only one person can get the promotion. So while they're on the train, she's going to um, do some things to make sure that he sort of doesn't arrive in a good state of mind by the end of the journey. So she's the only one who can get that promotion. And again, this is just what I've come up with. You'll probably have different characters, settings, and scenarios. Take your time and have fun with it. If you're having trouble thinking of um, how to connect these things and you don't quite like the choices that you've ended up with, roll again, see what you get. It'll probably be easier. And again, if you want to, you can use your own characters. So do give yourself a good amount of time for this, at least 20 minutes, if not half an hour, and just write a little story. It can be sort of bullet points of a story, or you can go ahead and write, say, up to 500 words, just a little scenario and have some fun with it. And again, pause if you wish. If not, follow me to the next bit. So now we've had some fun and played with some ideas and explored some things where we sort of been given prompts. Now we're actually going to move on to make our own villains properly. So you can use anything that we've done so far for this. And if you want to use the charts to help you with your character or your setting or scenario, please do so. If you want to make them up, or if you've got a favorite book that inspires you, anything that you like. So we're going to form a basics of our character. And what we're going to think about first is what type of person they are. So I have a little list of sort of basic attributes or traits here. So I've got, is your character going to be someone who's confident? Or are they going to be more anxious or unsure? Are they going to be very vain and think a lot of themselves and think a lot about their appearance? Are they going to be smug? Maybe they think that, they think a lot of themselves and think they're always right all the time. Whether that's true or not can be different. This is about what the character thinks of themselves and about sort of how they are within themselves. So are they intelligent or are they not? Um, and again, do they think they're intelligent when they're really not, or do they think they're unintelligent when actually they are? Are they insecure? Are they quick-tempered? So do they get angry easily? Or are they sort of calm and collected? Or do they seem a bit withdrawn from other people? Or do they like being around people? Do they sort of enjoy talking to everyone they meet and trying to get to know them? Are they inventive? Do they have a lot of ideas? Or do they make things? Are they jealous of other people? Do they want something that, you know, other people have that they feel they might not, or feel like someone's gonna take something from them? And overall, do they seem like a nice person to other people, or do they not? And I will quickly hold this up to you, but it's everything I've just sort of read out, so you can see that there. Um, so once you've answered those questions, and I will show you a little example of what I've done. Again, time to root through my notebook. So, for what I've chosen for this, I've just listed the few attributes that I decided to go with for my villain. I've got my villain will be anxious. They get the heebie-jeebies a lot, so they're spooked quite easily. They make a lot of plans, but back out of them quite a lot because they're sort of a bit nervous and unsure. And they have a bit of money, but not much. So my character can't go off and make huge, enormous machines or anything like that because they don't have the budget for that. They have to work on a smaller scale. So once we've got our basic attributes, then we can start to build up a bit of the backstory of our villains. And it's actually backstory that really makes a villain. Um, People really want to sort of know why villains do what they do and where they come from, how did they get to be a villain. Um, and some of the best villains are the ones with the most interesting or most relatable backstories. Um, you can almost understand why they do what they do. Almost. If they're sort of too relatable, you might be thinking, maybe I'll give it a go. We don't want that. Um, don't want to be making any actual villains from this, fictional ones only, please. Um, so, one of the other things that I asked myself during this was, does my villain have any hobbies? Um, and I did decide to give my villain a hobby. I made them a bird watcher, and I just put down my notes, and they connect with sort of the flightiness of birds. Um, because the thing with birds is they're always aware of predators, so even when they're eating or drinking, they're always sort of looking around every few seconds. And my villain is an anxious character, so he sort of does the same sort of thing. He's always wondering what other people are thinking of him, wondering if he's doing or saying the right thing. Um, and I've also put down that he's afraid of birds of prey. Obviously, birds of prey are sort of the alphas. They're quite forceful. They'll go after weaker species and things like that, and often very intelligent. Um, and that sort of reflects my villain's life in that he's sort of the underdog as such. Um, he feels like everyone else is sort of above him socially and things like that. So, if you are making your own notes at this, as I said, pause and you can come up with a hobby for your villain if you want one. But if not, after I did the hobbies, I then thought about, well, what's the villain's family like? Do they have a family? Um, Brothers, sisters, mums, dads, aunts, uncles, and do they have friends? And not just do they have them, but how do they treat those people? And also, how do those people treat them? So, for my villain, I've put down he's got an older sister, but she thinks he's completely rubbish at what he does. Um, Again, you probably have something completely different from me. Whatever you like will work for this. Again, this is your character. So whatever works for you and whatever you feel is fun or interesting, um, go with that. Um, it's very important not to try and sort of copy someone else's ideas because that actually makes being creative a lot harder. Um, so again, the next thing I thought about is what job my villain did when he's not being a villain. or sort of before he's been a villain. Now I'm using the word he here because my villain is a man, but it could be a woman, it could be someone who's non-binary, whatever you fancy on this one. Um, so I decided that my villain is going to be a teacher, and considering everything else that I've written about him, sort of being nervous, being looked down upon by his older sister, and having a little bit of money but not much. That also fed into the sort of traits he has as a teacher. So I've got the students don't pay much attention to him, and he doesn't have much authority over them. Um, and he tries to do his best, but deep down, he knows that it's not having much effect, and his students don't really care what he's talking about in his lessons, and also his fellow teachers don't think very highly of him because he sort of doesn't have this authority at all. Again, so that's what I've got. Now, once you've compiled all of that, we can sort of go into what your villain wants and also why do they want it. So these are the key things. In fact, the why is often sort of more important than what they want because the why is the driving force behind their whole narrative as a villain. Um, so again, I'll give you an example of my character. Um, and I had a lot of fun doing this, and it's quite silly. But again, the point of this is that you can write whatever you like. It doesn't have to be serious. It can be silly, or if you want to do a serious one, you can do. Um, whatever takes your fancy. This is the sort of joy of creative writing. So I have that my character wants to kidnap the other teachers, particularly the ones that he feels intimidated by, and he wants to take control of the school himself. And sort of this will help him prove that he's not to be messed with, that, he sort of is capable. This is probably not what these other teachers were thinking about when thinking of how he could be capable, but this is what he's come up with to sort of assert his authority over them. And so the why does he want to kidnap his fellow teachers and take over the school? Because he wants to be respected. And that is the main thing that sort of drives his character, his narrative. He just wants respect and wants to stop other people sort of thinking he's rubbish at his job, and thinking that he's not capable of anything um, other than what he is at the minute. And he wants to show that he can take charge and be powerful and be important. Um, because he's tired, he's fed up with being ignored all the time by everyone. So once you've got some ideas down for all of those questions, and you will notice that in building our character, all we've sort of done is ask questions about our characters um, to give us the answers to help us build them up, to find out who they are, what they want, and sort of what's going to happen in our stories with them. Once you've done that, now we can actually write our stories about our characters. Um, so this will be a sort of bigger piece of writing. And also, I forgot to mention, but for all of these things, you can also draw this as well. If you're actually more into comics or you want to make comics and draw comics, you can also do this in a comic form. Give yourself, I don't know, perhaps 5 to 8 panels to sort of sketch out your story, and you can do it that way. And or if you just wanted to draw your villain um, as you're coming up with concepts and sort of write your notes around them, you can do that as well. Whatever works for you. Um, I prefer to write my things by hand. I do sketch and I do like art, but I do prefer for this sort of creative things to just write my stuff down. Um, yeah, so this um, part of the workshop is completely yours now. Take everything that we've gone through so far, our villain, to help you craft your narrative with them and just have fun writing or drawing their story. Um, so I'll leave it up to you for this. Thank you very much for joining me for this. I hope it has made some sort of sense as well. Um, and just have fun with your stories. Thank you very much. Bye.